afternoon. I'm Father Pat here at the Villa de San Antonio and here for another fantastic Fridays with Father Pat. Our theme this week follows last week on trust. It's a story I heard God knows when, but I love stories, so I held it in my memory, probably for today. Once upon a time, as only children know, trees can talk. And one night there were 3 trees on a hillside in Palestine. And they were talking with each other. One was a big, tall tree. And he said to the other 2, I hope I'm never cut down. But if I had to be cut down, you know what I'd want to be made into? No, the other 2 said. I'd want to be cut up, whittled, and formed into the most beautiful throne for the mightiest king of the world. Imagine the wood of my trunk was all formed and whatnot, sanded and polished into the most beautiful throne for the mightiest king of the universe. Wow, the other 2 said. The medium-sized tree said, well, you know, I wouldn't want to be cut down either, but I guess if I had to be cut down, you know what I'd want to be made into? I would want to be made, sawed up into boards and planks and wooden pegs and everything needed to make me into the mightiest ship that ever sailed the 7 seas. So I could carry your mighty king from his beautiful throne to spread his reign all over the world. Wow, the other 2 said. And then I almost said the baby tree, because that's what he was. He was the youngest tree, the smallest. And he started to cry. Tears of sap just poured down its trunk and poured onto the ground. It just cried and cried. And it said to the other 2, can we change the topic of conversation? I don't even want to think about ever being cut down. I just want to stay here forever with my branches pointing up toward the sky so that whoever looks at me looks at God. The story ends. All 3 trees were cut down. If the carpenters who cut the first, the big tall tree down, had known what its dream was, to be made into a nice polished throne for the mightiest king of the universe, they would have laughed their hearts out. The wood in that tree was so knotty and porous. All they did with that was cut it up and made it, you know, as best they could. Wood wasn't good for anything, but they made it into an animal feeding box. An animal feeding box that was thrown in the stable outside of Bethlehem. And one cold winter's night, because there was no room in the inn, a baby was laid in an animal feeding box. The mightiest king of the universe lay there asleep. The second tree if the carpenters knew what its dream was? To be made into a nice, polished, mighty ship that would sail the seven seas. They would have laughed and laughed and laughed. They barely found enough wood in that middle tree to make it into a fisherman's rowboat. A rowboat that was thrown out onto the Sea of Galilee. One afternoon, because the sun was so hot and the crowd was so great on the seashore, what looked to the world like a carpenter stood up in that boat and spread the rain of God into the hearts of the thousands that lingered there on the seashore. And the little tree, well, it wasn't even carpenters who cut it down. There were no carpenters to laugh at them. It was only soldiers who came. They cut it down. Those branches that it prized and pointed up toward the sky and always toward God, they cut those branches off and threw them in a fire. They cut its trunk into two pieces. And what looked to the world like a criminal was nailed to that cross on a Friday. None of the trees had their dreams come true. And yet, all of them had their dreams come true more wildly than they could have ever dreamed. The mightiest king of the universe was a baby lying in the manger made from the trunk of that tall tree. And the mightiest king of the universe spread his reign into thousands of hearts from that very boat made from the middle tree. And the tree that wanted its branches to stand there just pointing toward the sky, so that whoever looked at it would automatically look up at his God. It happened. When we look at that crucifix today, our eyes look up at our God. God doesn't always make our dreams come true the way we think they should. As a child, blinded from meningitis at 9, my dream was not to be blind. And God said no, because he had a better dream. He made me into the priest that I am today, and gave me the joy of being here at the Villa de San Antonio, a joy I would have never known. When we talk about trusting God, he gives us our dreams. Yes, each of those trees had their dreams. But then comes ours to trust that he who gave us the dream